Welcome back to the Lipoedema Podcast. We're your hosts, Shell
and Tiana, and today we have a Lipoedema Warrior as a special guest. It's Caroline Hay. Caroline,
hello,
welcome
lady.
to the Lipoedema Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. As are we. So let's kick off. How did you come to learn of Lipoedema and when was that? Okay, good question. I think I've listened to all your stories, so I've listened to a lot of other Lipoedema warriors talk about this, and we always know there's something not quite right with our bodies. So I knew probably from about the puberty and then pregnancy, and then the biggest one was menopause. And that's when I got my diagnosis. So I still hadn't heard of the word lipedema. All my life, I was just told that I just need to diet and exercise. And I've been on every diet since I was probably 15. Of course, things work, things don't work. But when I hit menopause and I was training 6 days a week, I was that F45 girl who was, pumping it out. And I was extremely skinny up top and had very big legs down the bottom, and hit menopause very early at the age of 45. Things got really out of control and I really noticed big changes, and I thought it's not normal to be a size 14 up the top and a size 18 to 20 down the bottom. That just doesn't make sense. But I think the big aha moment was when I'm grateful for watching A Current Affair, and I saw Dr. Leckich on A Current Affair with Jodie Sawyer. And it was this wow aha moment. And I remember texting my mom and I texted my sister and I said, you need to watch this. This is what we have. I know this is what we have. And they just said, no, we're just big people and this is our body and this is our shape. And this is what, we just have to accept it. There's nothing wrong with us. So I just kind of accepted it. But it sat in the back of my mind. And when I went through menopause, I watched that again, and then I started the process. My GP didn't really know much about it. I was seeing a hormone therapist, and she knew a little bit about it, but I was referred to an endocrinologist, and who was, I won't say her name, but she 5 stars, amazing endocrinologist. But she spent half an hour with me, and I said, I think I have lipedema. Can you please check it out? And she was feeling my legs and do you have any pain? And she said, well, I actually just think what happens is you've told me how you put on all this weight during hormone period and your body has a memory. And to be honest, you've always struggled with your weight. So if you don't keep your weight off for 3 to 4 years, your body's always going to go back to being big. So your body needs to develop this memory of staying small. So diet, exercise, and let's do some more tests on these hormones. I walked out half an hour later and I cried all the way home. And it was that sting that led to a lot of change. And that's where I just thought, you know what? I'm going straight to Facebook with it. I found a Facebook site for lipedema ladies, and thank goodness there's a few out there. And I went anonymous and I stripped off. And I whacked my legs on this Facebook site and I just said, ladies, help me out here. Do I have lipedema? And it was just an overwhelming, hell yes, girl, you have it. And it was just the most amazing feeling to be validated. And I said, well, help me. I'm in Brisbane. I'm in Australia. Who is going to help me with this diagnosis? And that was when I was told there is Dr. Leckich down at Miami. And you just do a Zoom call and then you can meet with him. And it turned out at that time I met with Dr. Teo. So in April 2023, I had a diagnosis of stage 3.
Stage 3. There you go. So you had quite clear visual symptoms of lipedema, and yet your endocrinologist and other healthcare professionals sort of dismissed you.
I think my GP was very open to it, and she was very honest, and she just said, I don't really know enough about it. It's really hard for me to tell. And since then, I've provided her with anything that I would get from Dr. Teo in terms of the lipedema surgical solutions and booklets, paperwork. I gave them all to her and I said, here, you keep these copies because I'm subtly trying to educate people.
That's the way to do it, isn't it? That's how we do it. Like, a lot of the people that, like, in my care team didn't know about lipedema. They found out from me. And that's how we can make impact other women.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now can you give us a brief summary of your lipedema surgeries since diagnosis? Was it 2023? What we've just started 2025.
Can't say last year anymore. Yeah, so coming up to almost 2 years since diagnosis, I was very quick to jump onto this. I straight away booked a Zoom call. I had already started researching their website and I knew exactly what I wanted. I just was so full of this disease. I just wanted it gone. I almost had that feeling of just wanting to rip it out. My legs were so bad and it was starting to spread to the rest of my body and I just wanted it gone. And that's not through anything else other than, I had a wonderful husband who loved me the way I am and, people around me love me the way I am. But just for me, I wanted it gone. So I had that Zoom call, met with I had the phone call with Dr. Teo first about 3 weeks later. And that was when he gave me the diagnosis. And then he said, what do you want to do from here? There's a surgical or conservative pathway. And I said, surgical pathway. At this time, the way my brain works is I do a lot of, yes, I'm doing, but not a lot of thinking about how I'm going to get to that or how much it's going to cost or what I'm going to have to sacrifice for that. But I just knew in my head, think now, accept, follow up later. And so I pretty much booked this appointment in, met with Dr. Teo in, I think it was the end of April down at Miami. And he actually said that my legs were in quite good condition for surgery. I'd have to say I've been following a low carb diet prior to that. So I was exercising. I was in pretty good condition for surgery. He did say, I'd like you to wear compression for the next 6 weeks just to put even more. And I booked my surgery in that day. It was booked in for school holiday and I was excited. I was so happy. I was over the moon and validation was key. Like Dr. Teo was just so warm and so compassionate. And I'd told him everything that I'd been through and being told that no, I didn't have it and I was just fat. And he even showed me on the ultrasound that he had in his rooms the difference between what lipedema fat looks like and what normal fat looks like. One's grey, one's white. I can't remember which is which, but he showed me the difference because by the time I got to him, I almost didn't believe him when he told me. Oh. And I said, can you prove to me that I have this? It's not just in my head, which when I think back is quite sad that I was at that point. But yeah, so surgery was on the 23rd of June in 2023. Yeah, I started with the worst part in me, which was my posteriors. Amazingly successful. 5.5 litres gone. Very good recovery. I went back in the August. I went around I had a little bit of sick days that I could use, and I went during the echo time. Had my anteriors done. That was a bit problematic for me. A lot of seromas then, which is, what we have to expect with these surgeries. There's a lot of unexpecteds. But Dr. Teo was amazing. We got on top of that. I recovered from that and I didn't want to have any more surgeries that year. I just needed a bit of a break. My next surgery was in April 2024. I had my arms and my tummy done, amazingly successful. And I finished off with the last one, but I thought if I started first, I wouldn't go back again, which was my lowers. And that was in June 2024. And I actually did really well with lowers. I probably found them the most easiest to recover from. And I don't know why. Pain-wise, I don't know. I think they took a little bit longer. But I don't know. I just felt like they were the best surgery for me. And in total, by that stage, 17 litres of diseased tissue had been removed. And I was really happy because Dr. Teo originally said 5 surgeries, but I was able to get it all done in 4 because he's so incredibly amazing.
And give yourself some credit too. You were in good condition. Yeah. Like you were doing all the things too. Don't give him all the credit. You take some as well.
I was doing have to get our bodies ready. But I have to tell you, I admire you ladies for your compression wearing because it truly is amazing what compression can do. And I would know each time I go back in compression what they would do for my body. I could see the difference. But I can tell you when we got to that 9 weeks, I was out of compression. I was very excited to be out of it. But ladies out there, you must wear your compression. It's good for you.
Yeah, I've had a big break from compression from being pregnant, and I don't fit into my custom medis at the moment. And I don't know if I ever will, to be honest. But I'm back in my Cisalis sometimes, and it's summer here, and like I'm just trying to get back in the flow of it. So it's amazing what compression can do when you wear them consistently. Like my legs look completely different, and when I wear them consecutively, it makes a massive difference. So just get on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that's just a little bit about me right now, but I love hearing about yourself. I was sitting on the couch and like, so my legs, I've mentioned it before, my legs are like hard balloons. Like I always thought I had amazing quad muscles because my legs are so hard. And I was sitting at the couch and I noticed I've got a fall at the side of my leg. Like you got muscle and then the skin falls. I'm like, that's so softening. So soft.
Oh, God. Compression.
Wow.
Back to you, Caroline.
Sorry, back to you. Hey, no. That's all good. So after undergoing like multiple lipedema surgeries, what motivated you to take the next step and have skin removed? Okay, well, this is the part that you're kind of not prepared for. It was never on my radar at the beginning of my surgeries. I thought I'll have these surgeries and I'm done and move on with life. Dr. Teo had talked about my skin retracting. He said, I expect it to retract okay. Let's just wait 12 months and see what happens. And it just, I could see how amazing these surgeries had worked because the skin was just hanging off me. And I, like most women with lipedema, have almost zero collagen in my body and nothing was really retracting. My arms retracted quite well. I had Renuvian and that worked to treat, and I highly recommend that for the arms. Dr. Teo said that it was not going to work for my legs. There was just going to probably be too much skin there. So when we got to my arm and tummy surgery, I realized the impact of the skin that was hanging, and it was probably starting to get to me because I almost had to wear compression or Spanx underneath anything just because I could feel it. It was like an extra thing hanging off me, and it just wasn't comfortable. And I just thought I've just gone through all these surgeries and now I feel like this, and it just wasn't sitting with me. So that's when I'd had friends who had had reconstructive surgery. And so I decided that I would explore that further and got onto a few sites, Tummy Tucks Australia, and that was one of them, and just looked at different women that had had these reconstructive surgeries. And I thought, yep, this is the route that I want to head down. And I started exploring different surgeons and I narrowed it down to a few and started off with one who was Dr. Matthew Peters from Valley Plastic Surgery in Brisbane. And I thought I won't book anything yet. I want to talk to Dr. Teo and see how he feels about this. And I spoke to Dr. Teo and he was like, I really just want you to wait 12 months from your last surgery, just to let all the inflammation down and, see how everything settles. And I said, look, I get that, but if I'm going to do this, I'll need to do it in December because I'll need to take 6 weeks off to recover because it's plastic surgery. And I said, and if I don't do it this year, then I'm effectively going to be waiting 18 months after my final surgery. And mental health wise, I just knew that probably wasn't really an option for me because I knew it was already starting to impact me mentally. So he asked me, who are you thinking about? And I said, Dr. Matthew Peters. And he said, oh yeah, I've heard of him. He's excellent. He said, go meet with him. If he's happy to do it in December, then I'm happy for you to have it done. So I did. I made the appointment. I met with Dr. Matthew Peters in May. And exactly 7 months after that, I was booked in for surgery.
Where was the skin removed from?
Okay, so the skin was removed from my inner thighs and my tummy. And at the time I was seeing a physio, I had terrible back issues, terrible neck issues. And my physio had said, I think a lot of this is coming from your breasts because they're so big. And most of them would obviously go, yay, that's amazing. But no, it's actually not. It causes a lot of health issues. And so he said, can you just ask him while he's there if he could do a breast reduction? I guarantee you'll have a really good outcome with your back. Because at this stage, I'm actually looking at back surgery. Oh. So with that in mind, I also asked Dr. Peters about that too. And he said he was happy to do that in the one surgery.
So all in one? You got all in one.
Down. I had 3 surgeries in one.
How long were you under for?
I was under for just under 6 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really recent. You had that in December. So how are you feeling?
3.5 weeks ago. Starting to feel subhuman again, putting a dress on. I live in basically bike pants and a t-shirt, and I'm just been resting, and I'm happy to explain that whole process. But yeah, just resting, and have cleared my entire holidays to do absolutely nothing to ensure that I'm recovered and ready to go back to my job, which is in 2 weeks.
So a lot, like we just spoke about the physical aspects, like how you're feeling recovery wise, but talk us through the process of preparing both physically and mentally for this skin removal. Yes. What do they call it?
Incision? They call it skin removal, skin incision.
Yeah.
Okay, so from the time that I organised to meet with Dr. Peters, I had a list of questions that I wanted answered, because the biggest thing that I'd read about with lipedema is that we need to be so careful with our lymphatic system, because any damage to that can actually make the inflammation worse. And then, of course, we know with inflammation, the lipedema will grow. So I had a whole set of questions for Dr. Peters, and I met with him, and he allowed an hour for our first meeting. And he asked all about me. The first part of the interview was, tell me about yourself. What do you do? What have you been through? What's your history? Which I found really great. It wasn't about his agenda. It was about me. And at this stage, it's really important that it is about you, because you've been through so much. And I said, I have some questions for you. And he said, I love that. Fire away. And I said, tell me what you know about lipedema. And he was able to rattle off everything, right down to he knows that we're not funded for this. And he knew all about it. And I said, tell me, if we go through these surgeries, how are you going to protect my lymphatic system? And he actually sat there with a piece of paper and showed me how he did the surgeries and how he was going to protect my lymphatic system, which was really impressive. And he said, I don't do this just for lipedema patients. I do this for all my patients, because your lymphatic system needs to be protected. So then I went through a stage of you need to be prepared for that you are basically stripped down into nothing in his office, but he's already built that rapport with you, so you feel quite comfortable. He makes you feel very comfortable. And he went through all the areas that he needed to fix. At the time, I was in arm compression post-arm surgery, and I had to take all that off. And he was like, oh my goodness, your surgeon has done an amazing job. And he actually went through and squeezed all my legs, went through my tummy, and he said, your surgeon has done an amazing job. He's done the bulk of the work. So basically, I'm just doing skin incision, which was wonderful. That's also validating that I had made the right decision with Dr. Teo. Yeah. And he said, we can do your breast reduction. We're going to do a 360. And we'll do a medial thigh reduction where I take off the skin only because you have lipedema. And he said, you're healthy, you're fit, your diet's in check, you have help at home. I'm happy to do all 3 in one, because he won't do that for everyone. Yeah. He personalizes the surgical process. So he will take in all of your history into consideration before saying, yes, I'll do all 3. But he was happy for me to do all 3. And it wasn't my first rodeo. So he knew I'd been through it before. So yeah, he was happy to do that. He said he prepared me mentally, and he said, now you realize that I'm doing this at Christmas time. You will not be having Christmas. And I said, yes, I have thought about that. My daughters were traveling overseas at the time, and my husband said, I'm happy to spend holidays at home. And so we just said, right, no Christmas. We just had some family over for lunch, and that was it. And he said, you will need to be resting. He said, I know what you teachers are like. You said, you're going to feel amazing in 2 weeks' time, and you're going to be up and you're going to think you can shop. And you can't do that. You really do need to rest. And I did test the theory, and I slept for hours after. So he is right. Rest is key. So he helped me to prepare mentally for what was ahead. Told me, unlike lipedema surgery, where we, in the extraction process, that using the protocols of lipedema surgical solutions, where we effectively drain out, I would actually have drains inserted into me. So I walked around for 3 weeks with drains hanging off me. So that was something different. And you have to mentally prepare for that you've got a drain with liquid that you can visually see all the time on you. But I kind of like that. It was less messy, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a catcher for the fluid instead of just all over the floor.
Fluid. And yeah, so you're not leaking everywhere. And your incisions leak a little bit, but not really. They pretty much, you've got glue over the top of them, and I still have that, and that'll be removed tomorrow. And I'll be just taped up normally from then. So mentally preparing, I felt I was prepared until about 2 months before surgery. And this fatigue set in where I was feeling like, I don't actually know if I'm ready for this. I don't think I can do surgery number 5 in 18 months. I knew it was going to be a big recovery. And I just thought, do I pull out? Or do I really want to wait another year for this? And I just pushed through. And I have to say, I've been very tested in this process.
Wow.
Do I have any regrets? 0. But I have mentally been very tested. And I think it's so important to have lots of friends around you that can lift you up and just get you back on track and thinking positively. And family, my husband's just amazing. You know, he says, you've been through this before. You know, you are a warrior. You've done the tough stuff. You're so brave. You can actually do this. So having that talking to you all the time is so important. Listening to the Lipoedema podcast, listening to other people's stories, gathering your warrior women around you. I've recently been in touch with like my previous surgery buddies who've been amazingly supportive. And also I was just wishing Jodie Sawyer well. She was the lady that was on A Current Affair with Dr. Lekic. She's going through a process with Dr. Cheyenne, and I reached out to her to just tell her how excited I was that she was beginning her surgical journey. And I thanked her for being so brave to go on A Current Affair. And because I probably wouldn't have known what I had.
Yeah.
And we've been talking almost daily, and she's just had her first surgery. So the skin incision can be quite a brutal recovery. And so having her there as well, just talking to on the daily has been very helpful. So yeah,
I bet. Having that community around you. And how long is the expected recovery for skin excision?
Well, I can drive from about 2 to 3 weeks. Depends. You've got to have your drains out before you can drive. And I'm walking around okay. I can do maybe 2 to 3 hours of walking around at the shops, and then I have to rest for the afternoon. By the time I go back to work, it'll be 5 weeks. We have a week with no children, so I'm just sitting in meetings. So that'll be very doable for me. And I work in an amazing school where everyone is incredibly supportive. So anything I need, I know that they will provide to me. So 5 to 6 weeks is usually the time for healing. 12 weeks is where I can stop wearing compression. So 3 months of compression. And then I'm tape-free, compression-free from 12 weeks and basically living my life. But I think like with any surgeries, including the lipedema surgeries, it's a 12-month healing process. So I even know with the swelling now when I look, you know, it's like, oh, I'm so swollen. Like it's 3 weeks. What's going on? You have to be very patient with the process and know that it's a full 12 months to heal from any surgical process. Yeah. I do have a friend that works in the office, and she went back after 3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, different job though. That's a
different job. Yeah. I'm on my feet all day. So yeah, I need the 6 weeks.
Yeah. And I was going to ask about compression as well. I would have assumed with skin removal, you'd need to wear some sort of compression. Did you have to buy your own compression or did they provide it for you?
No, I didn't have to do anything. It's all done. Dr. Peters' surgical team organized everything. So after I met with Dr. Peters, I was then sent to one of his nurses and I was measured up. I had photos taken and they just said, we'll organize all of your compressions. So I have 2 bodysuits that I wear. I have 2 surgical bras that I wear, so I can alternate them and wash them. They provide them. It is part of what you pay.
Of course.
But I don't have to organize it, which is great. The only thing I had to organize, I asked about my incisions on my legs and they said they don't actually require, because it's just skin incision, I don't actually require any compression there, but they get you to just wear like firm 3/4 tights or very firm bike pants. You don't have to wear anything. I did try and actually wear some Bioflex, but I found the compression with that over my belly on top of other compression was actually
yeah, fair.
So I'm happy just wearing just some firm long bike pants that go down to my knees, and that's been very manageable. With my belly, there was actually some tissue removed from my belly because obviously it's about the aesthetics. So there is almost like aesthetical, if that's the right word, liposuction that happens just to get the actual shape right.
Right.
But yeah, so bits are taken from down below and then up above and then you're joined together. So I have a flat belly, which is really nice. Yeah.
Wow, what a journey you've been on, and it's like talking to us so soon after having your surgery. And this is probably really preemptive of us to ask, for the purposes of our listeners, for anybody who's had lipedema extraction surgery and is considering skin removal, do you have any insights, lessons that can help them make an informed decision?
For lipedema women, as I said, my first 2 questions were key. Whoever you're choosing, make sure that they're knowledgeable about lipedema. Interview them first, ask them those questions. And if they know, they'll be happy to answer them. Dr. Peters was really glad that I had questions for him, very open to that. And what he knew just astounded me. And I was so grateful for that because after everything I've been through, the last thing I wanted to do was undo the work that I had already done. So protecting my lymphatic system was the most important thing. And I didn't want any other surgical process to interfere with the work that I'd done because that really was the main part of it, was getting rid of the diseased tissue. That was the main reason that I started this whole journey. There's many great doctors out there. Dr. Peters is phenomenal, amazing, and I would recommend him to anyone that I met. But he was right for me. Wow. There's many amazing surgeons out there. It's like Dr. Teo was right for me in my situation. There's amazing doctors out there. Dr. Cheyenne was one that I had looked at. But for recovery purposes, I could only take school holidays off. So that wasn't going to be something that I could do. So really happy that I was able to see Dr. Teo and then just get the excision done later. It's just one way of doing it. But look on sites, talk to people, talk about their experiences, have your key questions, be prepared and be mentally prepared. If there was one thing that I could change, I still would have had the surgery done. But if you are someone that doesn't need to rely on school holidays like teachers do, I would advise definitely wait your 12 months after your last surgery because, the 5th biggest surgery after 18 months really tested me beyond anything that I was ever prepared for. But no regrets. Happy I've done it. So, just do your research, ask your questions, and wait your 12 months post your final lipedema surgery if you can.
Beautiful. Well, such a nice summary for our listeners.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I've been looking forward to our conversation because we haven't had anybody on who's had skin excision, and it feels like not many people get the opportunity to have it. So we don't have you, our first guest. And I'm looking forward to maybe catching up with you when you are fully recovered. And then
I'd love
maybe
that.
we can have another retrospective from you.
I can probably share some pictures too. So I'm still a bit swollen at this stage, but it's always good to see the before and afters too. So happy to do.
We'd love that. Yeah, that'd be great to share.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Caroline.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
It's been really good. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
The Lipedema Podcast 2025 is powered by Elegance Lymphatic Care. Lipedema and its symptoms vary from individual to individual. The opinions and advice voiced in this podcast are of a personal nature and used for educational purposes.
Please take away from this podcast what resonates with you, and please see your GP or preferred specialist for diagnosis and healthcare. We are Shelley and Tiana from the Lipoedema Podcast. Until our next episode, bye for now.